What's up, everyone? Blake Sloan here with Alex Prout, and we're back with another edition of Agent Success Podcast. And we're just kind of where we share like nuggets and things that we do that help our team, and obviously in turn want to help others out there, and kind of give that karma back out, and ultimately just kind of share some things that we've been doing,
right.
And especially coming to the year end, right? And I guess we talk about what we talked about in our weekly meeting this year.
Sure.
And we talked about, the fog of war, so to speak, and the fog of what we're doing this year. And what I've seen myself in the past and a lot of agents is that we just go, grinding. We kind of half-ass set some goals. But what happens is we don't really take time to look at the foundation about where we're at, right? Everyone tries to build these new goals. But the problem is they build these new goals without looking at the actual foundation or the real facts of the foundation they're in. So what that means is like, there's a gap. And we talk about this. There's a gap between who you are now, right, and who you have to be to pull your goals off 12 months from now. So if you're looking at the end of 2018, that person that can pull it off is not you right now, because if you could, you would have done it, right? And so the gap in the middle is really kind of what we got to look at, but you can't build in the gap. You have to be able to look at the true foundation of where you're at to build into that person that you are. And so we went through some exercises this past week, and so I'll never forget, even this past recently, I'm kind of all over the place, but recently I'm in a mastermind group online, and somebody's like, hey, who's got a buyer goal sheet for next year? Like, that's terrible. Like, that's not how you can really set real targets that are actually going to matter.
Yeah.
And we know that power comes through clarity, and the more layers that you can get into that clarity, the more power you're going to have going forward, right? And so what we did is really we kind of looked at the 4 areas. This is something that's been new for me this past year. It's been powerful. I call it the fact stack. And so we stack the facts of where we're at right now, who we are today, and then we're going to build out the facts and the feelings and everything around who we're going to be 12 months from now. And so we had a kind of emotional experience there by there. Some people are just kind of like getting emotional in the actual process. I mean, what was your experience? Obviously, we'll dig into that. But what was your experience in kind of watching and seeing that kind of play out?
I think what a lot of us woke up to is the fact that it's easy to set goals and treat them like you're just going to check them off a box over and over and over again, but then you start getting to feel like you're a hamster on a wheel. So I think the most important part of the exercise was not only to get crystal clear about who you are and where you are, but also set a vision so that your goals can be in alignment with that vision, so that you're actually working towards something as opposed to just trying to check off a box every week or every month or every 90 days.
Right, and that's one thing that kind of we do is we look at 4 areas. And so the first part we'll talk about is let's look at the facts about, we call it the fruit, the fruit about where we're at right now. The fruit is obviously what you harvested this year, right? And so a lot of times people tend to allow stories to play in, right? Well, it hasn't been too bad. Like, what's the real numbers? Like, how many sales did you have to a T? What was your gross sales numbers? What was your gross commission? What was your net commission? What was your, what's all of the information about your business ultimately? And it can also be, we do all areas of life. I forgot about that. And so we started out in our body, right? Looking at what are the facts in our body. What's the reality? Am I have power? Am I have energy? Do I feel lethargic? Am I overweight? Am I taking stimulants all the time? Whatever it may be, we will look at those facts. The next thing we look at, and it takes getting raw, and sometimes that takes getting back and being real with yourself, right? Being vulnerable with yourself, because the reality is if you're not willing to be vulnerable, right, and quit telling ourselves these lies that we do, they're not going to ever have power to move forward. And so part of that pain sometimes when you look at that is what we call leverage, right? That's the leverage that we use to move ourselves forward in that process. And so that's what we did, right? We all did that like within our body. We did it obviously in our balances, our relationships. We did it in our being, which is our spirituality, and ultimately our business. And so obviously the biggest one is our business. But what I don't realize, and I drew this out somewhere, actually I can try to show you. I drew this out here. You kind of see my great art about your life, right? This is business here. And so the reality is we all have this business that's this boat. But people all they want to do is put a bigger motor on, right? More motor. They don't realize that you right now, myself included, we all have anchors that are holding us in place. And so for most people, that anchor may be your relationship. It may be your body. It may be your spirituality. And it may be your skill set in business. But ultimately, if you don't know what that anchor is, you can't go cut the road. And so no matter how much horsepower you put behind you, you're not going to move anywhere. You're just kind of going back and forth. If you ever had that feeling like you're just spinning in circles and moving back and forth without growing, guess what? There's probably an anchor down there that's holding you back. And it could be leads, could be skill set, It could be in those areas that you have chaos in other parts of your life. And so those are things that we got to really dig into. And the second part is we all have an accelerator, right? We have one part of our life in our core four that allows us to be able to accelerate, aka pour fuel on the fire, that allows us to get through that. And so what we went through experience together is we really got real. And so that takes kind of like looking at the aspects of like, where am I at, what's going on, and things like that. And I guess I can show an example of that too, where like we have the reality of like what we call a fruit. What's a fruit in regards to like what's going on there in that part, and we just lower it out. What was kind of your experience in going through that experience and in all four areas, especially business or body, whatever it may be?
I would say that the most powerful part of it was really just clearly writing out what I've harvested for the year, but also what the connections between those points were. What were the commonalities between those areas of my life? Where was I held back? What was the one thing that I noticed that was consistent about what had been laid for a foundation for the year?
Right. And so like one thing you want to do is just take a piece of paper, as we did, blank paper, put fruit. What are the facts, right? In the fruit, aka like what's the reality? Like no feelings, no stories around. Like idiot, I'm 190 pounds, whatever it is, whatever it may be. I'm a size 36 or whatever your situation is. Obviously, you want to go through that part and figure out, okay, what's the reality? And like Alex talks about, once you go through this whole process, it's so powerful because you see the commonalities in all four areas of your life, especially your body and your business. I guarantee for most people, how you treat your body is how you treat your business. People have this story of like, oh, I work so hard, but ultimately you're leaving holes in places, right? And so that's kind of the reality of what we see. And so the next part of that we did in that area, let's say it's body, right? We went to the feelings. That was super powerful. We looked for, how do you feel about that specific fruit? And sometimes when you look at those things, right, it's going to make you angry, right? Or it may make you happy. And sometimes you'll see both. I think in mine, thankful, optimistic, happy. There was some I was frustrated in. And so what happens is, like he talks about, you can see some of these things stacking on top of each other. It wasn't until I looked at the actual fruit, like what's going on, and I put the feelings on top of it that allowed me to see more clarity. And like I was talking about the other day, deeper into the hole, right? We dig deeper into that rabbit hole of why do we do what we do? So if you set these new 2019 targets, like 99% of people are going to do next year, but you don't go to the rabbit hole, you're not going to be able to change it. That's why you see everyone stays in the same circle almost every single year, right? Because you don't go deep down into the DNA, what drives you and what drives your decisions daily. And we talk about this where it drives your decisions into your daily habits, weekly habits, monthly habits, which ultimately go to your yearly, which is like your number and your results. And so there's two types of that. And so you want to take a second page, put feelings behind that, and look, what are the feelings behind your fruit? Are you frustrated? Are you angry? What type of feelings did you experience? And even to other people in our office, as we shared, what were some of the things that stuck out to you?
Frustration was a common one among everybody. I think everybody walks around and thinks that they're doing all this hard work, but they still feel frustrated and they don't really know why. So getting it into a clear place, you're able to target some of that frustration toward exactly what you've done to get yourself there and what you need to do to course correct on that. And I think it was a big revelation for everybody was, I am frustrated. I'm not really sure why, but taking the moment to get it all clear, now I know why I'm frustrated and what I really need to address going forward.
And part of going deeper is you can take the fruits, put the feelings beside that, and you line by line. So let's say I have 190 pounds. What are my feelings behind that? And you want to get to a point where you can do it one word. And also happy about going down or frustrated about going up. And so ultimately you're able to kind of get that leverage in yourself, like I mentioned, and more clarity down the rabbit hole, right? We're shining a light really in part of our life that a lot of people aren't willing to look at, that most people don't take the time to go through and do. I wouldn't have really done it on my own, so to speak, unless we had a kind of a group thing to really go through. And so that's something that's super powerful. And the next part of that we really get into is our focus. And so this is kind of what deeply shines a light on your fruit, right? The focus is like, what have I been focusing on the past 12 months? What has been my focus? And some of y'all, like, let's say it's in your business, have I been focused or not focused? If I have, what have I been focused on? Have I been doing social media? Or have I been actually trying to grind it out? Or am I frustrated because I don't have any leads? Or have I been just grinding without really having any true focus? A lot of times people that get in a business the first few years, they don't really know what they're doing. Right? And I mean, I know it's a common thing everywhere because you don't have any clear direction. And so some of that may be like, I realize like, hey, I'm not really focused at all. I don't really know what to do. And so some of those things are like, what went to me, I focus this year a lot and get my body repaired. Like have my energy and my all these things along with my blood work correctly, things like that, to allow for me. I know I had in here working out non-negotiable, right? There are certain things that we had in that regard. I also realized I had a story I was telling myself that I eat good. And ultimately, I realized, like, hey, I don't eat great. I think I do. Like, I don't eat fast food, but on Saturday through Sunday, I'd eat like crap sometimes. And so that would affect my results when I'm working out 5 days a week. And so as you stack these on top of each other, you start realizing, oh, man, maybe I focus over here. Maybe I really didn't focus here. Maybe I'm getting distracted in this area. And so that's something that really makes a big difference that I ran into as well with myself. What was kind of your experience with that?
I think it was really nice in a way to get an honest look at what I had been focusing on and what had drawn my focus from what my initial goals were. And obviously, some things have changed throughout the year. Obviously, the things that I do on a day-to-day basis have changed, but I also allowed my focus to shift away from what my core was and kind of getting an honest look at that and really in a no BS kind of way, look, okay, my stories behind this are that I need to be doing this when really there's time for that, but there's also time for what I had set out to do.
And when you saw that and you went through that process, it was like, opening the lid of something, right?
100%.
Even for me, I'm like, holy cow, I have this story about this. I haven't had a story like, I was tired. And ultimately, what was driving me being tired was a story I was telling myself about being tired. And so all these things kind of matter to play at a high level. And I was actually doing some studying this morning, as I do every morning, and it was a really cool story about Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. And obviously, you want to know, I think they're worth like $182 billion together or something crazy. But the reality is, very cool story. They've known each other since they were young. And Warren Buffett tells a story about when him and Bill met. Bill's dad actually asked them to write one word on a piece of paper, each of them separately, without talking, of what really led to their success. And the cool part, and I told you a story, is they both were the same word without consulting each other. The word was focus. And so it goes on, that's the secret of billionaires, right? That they focus so intensely. And most of the time, we're not even where we're focusing on. Me, I was focused on certain things that were not helping me. It's not necessarily wrong, just not get me where I want to go. And so that's kind of the whole part. And you can see how this builds that foundation of how we make changes into 2019. And so if you want to leverage and create a life on fire next year, guess what? These are things that you want to go into because it helped light a fire in me, right? You can tell the difference in me when I went through it, right?
Absolutely.
And that's something that's super powerful. And the last part we did were kind of the actual facts about what's going on. So I kind of call it the facts about the facts. And so draw things as facts up top, line in the middle. And so the left part, I put what's working, right side, what's not working. And so it's very crazy to see you stack these things on top of each other. So I have my fruit, my feelings, my focus, and then I have the facts about those. It's interesting to kind of see what worked and what didn't work, right? And so like me, a lot of times, what's worked for me, gym 5 days a week, right? Excuse me, what else worked? Is taking my daily supplements, right? What works is food prep when actually food prep. What wasn't working is my nutrition on the weekends, right? My fuel I was feeding my body with was not working necessarily. And so there are certain things that really, and I did the same thing in business. We do all 4 areas of life in that regard. And when you went through, kind of what was your experience or feedback, things like that you kind of, and it could be business or body, whatever it may be.
I think one of my biggest takeaways from it, looking at what's working versus what's not working. Well, what does work is the time that I put into developing others. What's not working is the amount of time I'm putting into it. It was kind of it was the same thing, but one part of it was working and one part of it wasn't. Because the amount of time that I'm putting into it, aka not focusing on what's actually going to go to the next win, that's what was taking away from my own wins. I was allowing a lot of it just to expand into these large time blocks that I should be fiercely protective of if I have my own goals as well as my goals for other people.
And that's one thing I was like, whoa, big, kind of takeaway is like, man, I can focus more here and less focus here, which allows us to do what? Dive deeper down the rabbit hole, which is to that level of success.
Right.
And so that's something that's huge for me in that regards and ultimately allows us to stack it up. And so what we do there is like, all right, here's what we have from our fruit, right? And you like it, you don't like it. And the hardest thing for most people I've noticed is to be able to just be real. Right? We kind of tend to like sedate ourselves into things aren't bad, they're not that bad. Where a lot of people aren't willing to kind of rip that Band-Aid back and look at, okay, what's really going on here? Because for most people, guess what? It's easier just kind of to avoid that.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of people like in real estate, they'll go and go and go and struggle and struggle and struggle. And guess what? One day, boom, they just quit, they're out of the business. And so it's something that if you take that and peel that back and look at that now, you might be able to make a different decision about what you do next year, about where you do next year, about what your strategy is for next year, and who you align yourself with. And so that's something that I think is super, super powerful in that regard. And so there's all these stories that we're telling ourselves in that process that's holding us in that fog. And so you have, and you want to write this down and think about this. What's the story that you're telling yourself right now, right, that's keeping you in that fog? Like I mentioned, one of mine was that I actually eat good, and the second one was that I was tired. And both those were really not really serving me at all.
Right.
And so it's very easy for me to look at that and realize, like, all right, once I track what I'm eating, guess what? I'm not eating that as good as I think I am. And so a lot of times people in sales, especially you've seen this a lot training people, is they think they're really doing a lot when they're not really. You're just really busy and not actually being productive. And so that's one thing that you look at, what's working, what's not working. Am I being busy and being in reactive mode, or am I being productive in what is moving forward? And so that was kind of something that's super powerful that we did in that arena, and then we did that through each area. So you want to go through and look at the notes and the kind of the common denominators you see in each, and that's something that's huge. And so that's the first part. And as you went through that, what was your biggest takeaway, ideally?
I think my biggest takeaway is that I think all of us have some sort of awareness that we're lacking in some way. But are we aware of what needs to be addressed to take care of it? You can be aware that, hey, my business is not where I need it to be. But if you try to build just from that point and go up from there, you might be building in the wrong way. As opposed to, okay, my business isn't where I need it to be. Let's take a look at the levels of what is working versus what isn't working, and now let's address what isn't working.
Yeah, and that's one thing, like, you want to do that, because we talk about the same analogy. Like, if you want to build a high-rise out here on the boulevard, and I just start building it on the sand, guess what's going to happen? It's going to tip over. It's not going to work out, right? But we do this every day in a business. I mean, it's funny now, but not really when we do it in our business. Right. And so we just do it and don't really think about, what's my real foundation? Are you getting enough leads? Do you have any sales training? Do you actually get high-level psychology and sales training? Do you have any guidance, right? Are leads you have any good? Are you having enough to last you weekly, daily, monthly in that regard? Do you have enough leverage as a team standpoint? Do you have somebody to help hold you accountable, right? Those are all things that are facts of yes or no. And so those things you want to go through is like, do I have a daily schedule? Do I have an actual plan of what I'm doing? And so that's the stuff that really matters once you start digging into it. What you'll find is once your mind starts going this way, you start seeing more things and more things that you couldn't see before. At least that was my experience in that part. And so that's something I think that's a huge difference there in that regard. And the next thing we did is the same exact thing for us 12 months from now. And this is kind of the cool part. And so a whole new 4 sheets, right, for each area of life. And so the first one is, let's say is what's my fruit? If I look at me, the man 12 months from now, right, in the same exact place, same exact day, what is going to be the fruit of that? And so my body, right, what's going to be the exact things? Staying lean, X amount of pounds, X amount of body fat, whatever it is. If I'm in business, I sold X amount of homes, X amount of volume, this many buyers, this many sellers, right, whatever it is, I made this much money. That's kind of the person of who you are, right? And it feels good to see that, but most will never even get really specific in who they want to be, right? And who that person is, because it's not necessarily your goals you got to hit. The question you ask yourself is, who do I got to become to hit that goal, right? That, for me, that man that's sitting there 12 months from now, who is that person? And then my goal daily, every single day, is I'm on a quest to become that person. That's the secret I feel in hitting goals.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that's what no one really talks about. Oh, here's this cute little sheet where you mark your numbers down. That's why they never happen. And so if you got that and that was your plan for this year, you might want to rethink that. And that's just real talk that I've been able to learn the hard way. And so I did it here, and I give it to my team before. I'm like, oh, let's put these sheets out so we have a plan. And guess what? They weren't hit a lot of the time because there was no clear foundation about where we're going.
Right.
And so, or what I'm building off of. And so I was technically building off a foundation of saying. And so now we go to that, all right, well, guess what? Once I'm into my feelings about the man 12 months from now, obviously if you're the woman of 12 months from now, what is that going to feel like? Right. And so those are the things that truly matter. And I think like my example is like power, weaponized for my body, obviously, energetic, on fire, healthy, optimized. Those things just embodied. And obviously business, we had a whole different set of those. But that obviously gives what? That gives me instant power. I'm like, yes, I'm kind of pumped up in that. But now I have more clarity, which is more power to move towards that.
Absolutely.
And so that's something I think that's a huge deal for people to kind of think about and go through and be a part of there. And so what was your experience when you saw the man, 12 months from now and who he is?
It sounds so simple that it sounds ridiculous, but it's really not. And I think the power of the visual of the man 12 months from now is exactly what's going to kind of cause a wake behind me as I travel along, and everything is going to kind of fall into place behind it.
The wake is like the best, I think, example. Because you're like, even at first when I started sharing the team, people were like, what the heck? But and very quickly, you can feel the energy, right, of the room just kind of become like, real, and it was tense.
Mhm.
And so, you know why? Because most people aren't willing to look in that hole.
Right.
And so sometimes when they look in the hole, you see things that you don't want to see. That's okay, because if you can own that, right? And that's one thing I was talking about when we were teaching this on Tuesdays. Like, here's the deal. I own my results, period. Both the good and the bad, right? No one can take credit for my good results. No one can take credit for my bad results. And so that's something I think that was a huge kind of aha for sure. Yeah, people is like, you'll never change results if you're not willing to look at them.
Right.
And that right there's a write it down, right? You're not going to be willing ever. You're going to be able to change your results if you're not willing to look at them in a hard, true way. And so sometimes they're painful. They suck. Part of mine, you know, I was very frustrated with. And so that's something that makes a big difference there. And the next thing is like focus. And this is super cool. Is like, what's going to be my focus next year? So for me to get from the man I am now and the man I want to be 12 months from now, what does my focus have to be? And so like that's some example to me. I put focus on power, right? Both working out and fuel. And that's one thing for me. I need to focus more on my nutrition to fuel that power in me, right? So it's not I'm going to be hopped up on caffeine or things like that. You know, you want to make sure, how do I build that naturally in that regard? And so that's something that's super important for me, is focus on long-term longevity instead of short-term, right, benefits. And so that was something that is a long-term goal for me. And I wrote down here, look, I control my energy, nothing else. Right? No external stories, no external things. For the business, the same exact thing, right? We're focused on growth, focus on A players, focus on helping those who want to be helped, because there's so many out there, right? And so that's the thing. If that's something that speaks to you, you might be one of those A players. You never know. And so what was your experience when you're able to kind of dial in some of that focus for you in that regard?
Well, it was really at that point, you just recognize an opportunity to change your story, to change the story that you've written for yourself by your actions, by your repeated habits, and really change your story into what is it going to take? Who am I 12 months from now? And who do I have to kill off in order to get there?
Right. And we talk about it. Like, the person you are today, you're going to have to kill off that person of who you are to become that person next year, right? And guess what? And some people like that haven't really thought this word, got to be thinking like, what kind of hippie stuff is this guy talking about? But the reality is like, that's it. Fulfillment, happiness, all this comes through expansion, right? And so as you expand who you are, you've got to unlearn some of those bad habits, unlearn some of those of who you've been. You've got to learn and unlearn at the same time. That was what we talked 2 weeks ago. And so we kind of built into this process. And so we're not talking about, we train on high level stuff. This is the type of stuff that we talk about to help move that person from a psychological aspect. We focus on breakthrough here, right? How do I help you break through to that next level, not just sell some houses? Because that person that's in power can do anything, have an amazing relationship, be in the best physical shape of their life. All these things, as they become mentally stronger and better, guess what? They perform different in business. And so that's something that's so important too. And then obviously on the fact side, right? The same exact thing. Facts at the top, line down the middle, you're going to put two different things. So one, what am I going to learn? What do I have to learn? And then the right side, you're going to be, what do I have to leverage? And so there's two aspects. Like for me, in your situation with your agent, like what do I have to learn? Do I need to learn sales psychology? Do I need to learn high-level sales? Do I need to learn how to get more leads? Do I need to learn how to market, right? Most people I've found they need to learn how to close, right? And that's all over the board. And so the reality is, how do I close? How do I understand the sales psychology of selling people high-end things, right? Those are things that matter, because the reason that your leads aren't converting sometimes are not necessarily that they're a crappy lead. They may be that you're just not great at closing. And so that's something that you need to be able to have to adjust that in real time to be able to see. And the other part is like, what can I leverage? Do I have anything in your network you can leverage? Do I need to leverage a different brokerage, a different area, right? Do I need to leverage someone who has this stuff in place? Do I need to leverage someone who has leads in place? There's so much opportunity there, but you need to make a decision now, right, on what happens in 2019. You don't want to wait till January, February, March, or 3 months behind, and then you're trying to salvage the rest of your year. Your momentum starts today, right? And the decision that you make, do you do this or you not do this? Did you turn this off? Are you watching the end? My suggestion and my thought, if you're watching 23 minutes, 24 minutes in right now, you're probably someone who takes action, right? You're probably someone who's able to get these things done. And this is what you got to do, is you've got to make decisions and move. And part of what this system does, I call it the fact stack, allows you to make real decisions. Because as we went through as a group, every single person saw a pattern.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, holy cow. And it was, like you said, it was so simple but profound, the level of clarity that you pull back in your life. Why is that? Because like I mentioned, we all operate in a fog. It's the fog of busyness, the fog of real estate, the fog of getting beat up by life. Everybody has these crazy things going on, right? But how do I pause, slow time down around me to help me make the right decisions. Most of the time, most decisions people make are reactionary. They're not strategic.
Right.
And so the reality is like, how do we do that going forward? How do we make that aspect, better and change? And that's something I think that makes a big difference there as well. And so I need leverage. I need leverage. I need to learn better nutrition, right? Learn more macros and actually specific. Be intentional about my energy. I need to leverage more food prep. Leverage a coach, and the same thing in business, right? The same thing pretty much there as well. And so what we want to do is you put all that stuff together. Last part. Put all that stuff together, and we take notes on what do I see in the gap. What's in the gap between who I am right now, the fruit of who I am, and the fruit of who I want to be? What's in that gap right there? And that's something that should tell you, like, holy cow. For me, my number one thing for 2019 is intensity, right? I talked about that, and I was like, man, I didn't realize until I just wrote with what was inside my head and my brain over and over. I'm like, man, intensity, intensity, intensity. That's a difference in regards to what we're doing here, right? And so that's something that helps me share. Part of the reason why we share these podcasts, right, is just for me too, right? For me to help finalize the thoughts and the things that we're teaching, we're going through, and to help share that stuff, right, just to put it out there.
Right.
And so some people probably get pissed off at this stuff. It is what it is, right? But if this speaks to one or two people that need it, right, my fulfillment is done.
Right.
Because I see it every single day. I hear about it. This is the quiet thing that people like to talk about, right? It's like the reality of results. They'll talk about all kinds of things. Well, I don't like so-and-so, don't like the way they do. And the one thing you can't argue about with us and our people is what? That we get results in all areas of our life. Every single part is better. You look at people in the room, they're talking about, I lost 60 pounds. I did this. My body's here. And all these changes are different. Their business is up here, right? So the reality is those things matter, but you got to be able to be willing to go there. Most people aren't willing to go there. And so that's the reality of that. And so final thoughts, after going through this process, what are your thoughts in regards to kind of going through that experience? And anybody out there that may be thinking like, what in the world is this type of stuff?
I can't convey enough that it sounds so simple that it's ridiculous, but the truth is it actually is that simple. And I think our brains tend to want to overcomplicate it, but when you break it down to the most ridiculously simple part of it, where am I? The truth, not what I perceive myself, but the truth, and where do I want to be? Everything from there just kind of sets itself into place if you can do it in an honest way and in an objective way.
Right, because here's the thing. Last part, if you got to get one thing is this is how you get leverage on yourself. Most people a coach or somebody or a mentor push you, and what happens? The momentum stops, right? And that's why people do what? They go back into their comfort zone.
Yep.
They go back to what's comfortable, and that's where they get the same results every single year in most cases, right? If you're tired of doing that, you've got to learn how to get leverage on yourself. And the cool thing about that is you can fire your ass up more than anybody else if you're willing to go there.
Right.
If you have the guts to go there internally and go down that rabbit hole. And the first time it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be kind of weird. In some cases you need guidance on that. This is something I guide everyone through step by step in that regard. But the bottom line is if we had to share one thing that may provide value is that if you're looking to do your 2019 goals, most of you probably maybe already have, make sure you take time to go back and look at your foundation right now.
Right.
What is the fruit of where I'm at right now in all 4 areas of life? Because you may have an anchor right that you can't see right now. And there may be an anchor that's holding you back, either your body, right, your physicality. It could be your guilt and shame about things that you haven't done, right? Could be something in a relationship. Could be a loop that has not been closed. Could be your spirituality. Could be just kind of feeling lost. And so those are those things that hold everyone back. What I've found is that most people don't have a business problem. They have a problem in one area of life that's holding them back.
Right.
And so that's something I think that'll set you on fire. Because, again, if your marriage gets on fire, guess what? You're going to be excited. Things are going to come back. Business go up in a big way. But what do you need to do right now to put yourself in power for 2018? And part of this is going back, and you may have to watch this 2 or 3 times. But the answer is, how do I go back and put myself in power? Anything else you want to share?
Man, that's about it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Hope this provides value. Like I said, we're just here to kind of share. If this speaks to 1 or 2 people, awesome. The other part, if you're not sure what you're doing in 2018, or if you're just watching this, get in the business, or haven't been in business yet, and you need someone that's going to train at a very high level and help guide and teach and provide massive amounts of leads. Like right now, you shot a video last night. We're growing like crazy, right? And we need people who want to hustle. If you're an A player, you're tired of being in that same loop, the karmic cul-de-sac of just the same old, and you're ready to level up, reach out to me now. We have a couple spots open. We're doing a huge class, a 6-day acceleration program in the first week of January, and we're hitting it hard because we want to play at a very high level. We would like for you to play at a high level if that's something that speaks to you. Most of you is not, and that's okay. But if you know someone who may be kind of in that cul-de-sac, they need to get it out, and they know they're truly an A player, there's not the right atmosphere, have them reach out to us, right? Give us a call, respond here to email, or just go to our site right here with the link at the bottom. I think joinblakesloan.com. So we'll see you next episode.